Hi, everyone. My name is Cherien Dabis, and I'm here to welcome you to the 2020 Locarno Film Festival's Pardi Domani conversation. I'm here with a number of incredibly talented filmmakers from all over the world, and we are going to be discussing their short films, which I have to say I enjoyed immensely. I'm very excited to be having this conversation with you guys. I'd love to start off by just having each of you briefly introduce yourself, maybe tell us where you're calling in from, tell us the title of your film, maybe give us just a very brief description of it.
سلام، من باران سرمد هستم، از ایرانم و اینکه با فیلم زرد خالدار توی جشنواره لوکارنو حضور دارم. این فیلم در واقع اولین فیلم پروفشنال من به غیر از تجربه‌ای که توی دانشگاه داشتم هست و خیلی خوشحالم که توی این میتینگ حضور دارم.
Hello, my name is Baran Sarmad. I'm from Iran. I'm in the Locarno with my film Spotted Yellow. It is my first professional film after making few films making few student films, and I'm really happy that I'm part of this discussion with you.
Hi everyone, I'm Veronica and Montaño. I am one of the directors of Leuenberger, and I'm calling in from Switzerland, Ticino. Actually, I'm not so far from Locarno.
Hi, I'm Manuela Leuenberger. I'm also calling in from Switzerland. I'm also part of the Leuenberger directors team.
Hi, and I'm the third one of the Leuenberger Salmon directors team, and my name is Joel Hofmann.
And the film is about a group of salmon men who swim upstream.
Hi everyone, I'm Aline Schoch. I'm calling from France at the moment. I did the 2D animated short Megamall, and it plays in a world of escalators.
Hi, my name is Linh. I'm from Vietnam. I'm calling in from Singapore. My film title is A Trip to Heaven. It's basically about a 50-something woman bumping into her high school sweetheart during a tour group. Yeah, and how they reconcile from there.
Great, I love it. I know, Baran, you said already that this is your first professional film, but I would love to hear a little bit more about whether you guys have made shorts before or even a feature before, and whether you've screened at Locarno before.
من در واقع فقط به غیر از تجربه هایی که توی دانشگاه داشتم و شاید مثلا ویدیوهای خیلی کوتاهی بوده که البته اونها هم نتایج خیلی مثلا توی فستیوال دانشجویی برای من نتایجی داشته، فیلم دیگه ای نساختم و این اولین فیلم کوتاه هم میشه که داستان یک دختریه که رویای زرافه بودن در ذهنش داره.
Before this film, I have only worked on student projects, very short films, and the result was for them being in some student film festivals.
Yeah.
I haven't made another feature film, and this is my first professional feature film. It is a story of a girl who has a dream of becoming a giraffe.
قبلا توی جشنواره لوکارنو حضور نداشتم و این اولین حضورم توی این جشنواره هست.
I haven't been to Locarno Film Festival before, and this is my first time there.
ولی ما یک استودیوی خیلی مستقل فیلمسازی توی ایران داریم که من قبل از این فیلم 3 فیلم رو تهیه کنندگی کردم و این فیلم در واقع تولید جدید استودیو هست.
I haven't been into Locarno, as I said, but this film is a production of a very independent film studio in Iran. I have produced 3 other short films before in this studio, and this is our 4th production, our newest production in this independent studio.
Great. And I'd love to hear from everyone else, whether you've made short films before, features, whether you've been to Locarno before, or whether you've had a film screen at Locarno before. Manuela and Joel, do you want to go first?
Okay, yeah.
Or second, I guess, since Baran went first.
Well, it's the first film that the 3 of us collaborated together as a team of co-directors. We did some short films together where the constellation was a bit different. Some of us animated on the film that the other directed, and so on. But it's the first time for us as well that we've been shown at Locarno Film Festival.
Excellent.
Well, they said everything.
Do you have anything to add, Veronica?
Yeah. Well, like we did about the amount of films, we did 2, but also like Baran was student films. So this is the first like real one outside from school. Yeah.
Great. Aline?
Yeah, this is actually my first film. It's my student film. So never made something before, no. Just like short stuff. And it's also the first time I'm in Locarno, of course.
I've made a couple of short films before. I've made a trilogy about middle-aged women and more like family-oriented topics before. So this film is actually the first in a new series about all the touristic places in Vietnam, which I'm very passionate about. My first time in Locarno went back in 2015 when I went to the Filmmakers Academy. And then I have a short film titled Mother-Daughter Dreams that was screened during the Open Door screening last year. Yeah, so this will be my 3rd time in Locarno.
Nice, very nice. Well, I, as I said before, I enjoyed these films so much, and congratulations to you all for being here and making your films and having them here in Locarno. You know, I was so amazed when I watched these because I felt like there was some common themes throughout them. And I felt like all of you were trying to make some sort of commentary on society, making some observation, and let's say, even in some instances, poking fun at, like, you know, who we've become, and some aspects of humanity. And I just would love to hear a little bit from each of you about what it is that you were saying in your film, what it is that you're hoping that audiences will take away.
Oh, is that my turn? I thought I'll be the last one. I guess when I started writing the script for this one, I was inspired by this place in Vietnam, which is in the Mekong Delta, and the tour that the characters in the film went through is exactly the same tour that you would go through if you go to Mekong Delta, and it hasn't changed for the past I think 10-15 years. It's been the same, and it's quite funny because every time I go back, it feels like I'm going back to you know, the same place. And in recent years, because of climate change, it's going to disappear. So I just want to make a film to kind of like record the memory of the space. Then the second inspiration for me in the film is actually when I hear about my mother's kind of like unsuccessful relationship with another man during her early years in her school time. And so I kind of combine the journey together because I feel like, how do I say it? Like when someone has so many wishes that they can't fulfill during their life. So what if they can fulfill it during another time after life? And that's my inspiration for this film. So when I make the film, I hope that the audience will enjoy the romantic comedy aspect of it, but also take away something about how a person and their unfulfilled wish in life could be, I don't know, could be fulfilled. Yeah, in another time. Yeah.
I felt like, I mean, it was really interesting with all of the selfies that the characters are taking. I mean, first of all, I love what you're saying. And I really felt that, you know, I felt like I was going on a tour of a place and it felt very real. It felt very authentic. But I also love that it felt like you were making some sort of commentary about tourism as well. Do you feel like that's the case? You said you were very passionate about it.
Yes. The like how do I say? So the tour is as you see in the film, and all the people who go on the tour are really what I have observed during my time going to the same tour in the Mekong region. And the only new thing is that staircase to heaven. So the staircase to heaven is something that is popping up across Vietnam. I think it's an attempt of the country people to I think it's to catch up with the mass tourism that is happening right now. And so they come up with all these like weird, crazy new things that is a bit like how do I say it? It's funny at the same time, but a lot of people love the idea, and I just think when I look at it, it feels funny at the same time, but it's also have this. It sparked in me this idea that what if this is the real stairway to heaven, and you know what will happen if there's some more thing to it. So yeah, that's how I came up with the story in the film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Great. Who wants to go next? Aline?
Me, yeah.
Do you remember what the question was?
No. Yeah, like when I got to the idea of Mega Mall, it was like it started like out of a fascination of escalators, because I actually like I avoid it like all the time. Like I never take the escalator, I always walk stairs. And I got into research a bit about escalators. It kind of fascinates me. And so how can I say that? So when I like the escalator kind of was a symbol for me also for the like our Western consumer society. And so I kind of tried to make like a whole film and on that escalator world, and like consumerism is something I was into a lot, like I'm still into a lot, and I'm like all the questions like how much do I need, how much do I consume, is it possible not to consume, and all that stuff was in my mind all the time, and kind of try to combine that with that escalator that kind of is a symbol for that.
Yeah. That's great. And I love how you really build to a frenzy in the film. I mean, there's just like the film sort of builds to like this crescendo. And I want to talk a little bit more about rhythm later, but I think that you were very effective in how you dealt with consumerism in the film. How about Veronica?
Well, I think in the beginning we had like this Lachsman, this salmon man, and we wanted to play with this stereotype about men. That was like in the beginning, and that was the inspiring point. And then like we like to make fun of those things, those like these big themes like stereotypes and female, man, that sort of thing. So yeah, I actually don't want to tell you what we wanted to tell exactly. I don't know how Manuela and Joel think about it, but I don't know recipes. Like I wish that at the end the people go out with like they have questions in mind. They want to discuss this theme, and that's like my wish for this film. But, yeah.
Yes, basically, yeah.
Did you have a, did you guys know what you were trying to say with the film? Did you have that already in mind, or were you really just like trying to poke fun at something and just hoping that the audience will kind of take away a conversation about stereotypes and about sort of human nature?
It is, well, yeah, we know what we want to say, of course, in the film, yes, and it's basically we work with the common stereotypes and then play with this, and this is and change them, and then yeah, like
yeah, well, since it's a short film about 6 minutes, we don't have that much time to go into detail. So that's why we use these stereotypes, and just as the introduction of the film, and at the end we try to reverse some and make them and put them into another context, and that's what we try to do. But we don't really want to show the audience or tell the audience what they have to think about that and what they have to take out of this movie. We hope, yeah, we have our own conclusions, and hopefully the audience got some new ones that would be pretty interesting for us as well.
And I think we just want to raise questions about what it means to be a man, what society expects of men, expects them how to be, and yes, and at the beginning we just use them as the very typical like strong man who's really competitive and yes.
And sorry. Yeah. And one of the questions that drove us was how would a world look like for men? What's the role of a man supposed to be in a fully emancipated world?
Where women are more also less depending on men, or can.
Mm-hmm.
I love how women were depicted as like these goddesses who were just like, I mean, just in total enjoyment. Like it just, even the sound, which again, we'll get to, I'm like getting ahead of myself because I'm excited. But I really love what you did with the contrast between the men and the women. I thought that was just really, really fun and really funny and very well done. Let's see, who hasn't spoken yet? Baran?
ایده این فیلم یعنی کلا از اینجا برای من شکل گرفت که من همیشه این سوال از کودکی با هم همراه بوده که احساس میکردم طبیعت و همه جهان یه ارتباط کلی دارن و یک جریان واحدی وجود داره، ولی انسان رو همیشه دور از این جریان دیدم، انگار که یه جای خودش رو جدا کرده.
The idea of this film shaped like this, that since my childhood I have always thought that the nature and the whole universe are co-related. They are all in relationship with each other, but human beings are separated. It seems that the human beings are not in relationship with the nature and the whole universe.
و از طرفی همیشه از کودکی تصورات فانتزی نسبت به خیلی از موضوعات جهان داشتم.
And again, since my childhood, I have always have fantasies about the relationship between human beings and the world around humans.
ولی خب طبیعتاً وقتی که بزرگتر میشی به خاطر این فضایی که ما داریم توش زندگی میکنیم و انسانی که همش داره توی این زندگی مدرن پیش میره، تو کم کم از این فضا دور میشی، چه از اون فضای فانتزی ذهنی، چه از اون جریان طبیعی که خیلی وقتا خودتو توش جزئی از اون جریان احساس میکنی.
And when you grow up, gradually, because of the condition of the modern life, you gradually are separated from the world around you, from this universe and the relationship which is there, from that fantasy world that you had some connection with. But as you grow up, you lose this relationship and connection.
حالا ایده این فیلم برای من توی یک شبی اتفاق افتاد که من توی یک مهمانی خانوادگی بودم و همه آدمای اون مهمونی خیلی داشتن در مورد مسائل دنیای مدرن، شغلشون و درگیری‌های زندگیشون حرف می‌زدن.
The idea of this film came to my mind in one night during a family gathering where everyone were talking about daily life, their jobs, and all these modern life concerns.
و من هیچ ارتباطی اونجا نمیتونستم بگیرم با انسان‌ها. بعد اون مهمونی جلوی در که باز همین بحثا ادامه داشت و هم داشتن حدوداً مهمونی ترک می‌کردن.
And I couldn't relate to any other person during that gathering, and also when they were saying farewells and goodbyes, they were still talking about these things.
من برای یه لحظه از همه جدا شدم و گوشه اونجای کوچه تاریک بود و من گوشه کوچه وایسادم و به انتهای کوچه نگاه کردم.
And I left everyone. I went to the dark alley and I looked at the end of the street.
یه زرافه خیلی بزرگ رو دیدم که آروم از انتهای کوچه رد شد و برگای درخت‌ها رو دید و سریع رفت.
And suddenly I saw a very big giraffe at the end of the street, which was walking very slowly and somehow moved the leaves of the trees around.
و اون شب با خودم احساس کردم که میخوام که این تصورات فانتزی و این ارتباط با طبیعتی که همیشه توی ذهنم بوده رو تبدیل کنم به یک فیلم و شروع کردم به نوشتن طرح و ساختن این فیلم کم.
And that night I decided that I want to realize all these fantasy ideas and to make this relationship with the nature into a film. So I started with writing the story and making the film after that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like the theme of nature is another sort of common theme throughout all of your films. And I know that you guys had a chance to see each other's films. So I'm just curious to know whether you also saw these similarities and you know, whether you were as sort of surprised as I was at some of the overlap.
Yes, I was, to be honest, I was actually surprised because when I saw the list, I saw 2 animations. I was like, wow. And then, yeah, I watched the 2 animations and then I was very, it was really funny. And it's really, really nicely and well done. And I can get the commentary aspect in your films. And then for Baran's film, it's really powerful for me. I really like it a lot, especially like just the opening shot is already captured my attention, especially when she starts shouting. I was, my heart's like, oh, yes. So yeah, I agree. There's definitely some similarity between our films. not only in terms of a topic about the commentary stuff, but I also like the sound design of all the films. I'm not sure if you guys feel the same, but like the music.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that.
Yes, we'll get to that, but like yes,
yeah.
the rhythm and yeah. So I really enjoy all the films.
I totally agree with you. I think that there's some amazing music and sound work in all of these films as well, and I'd love to discuss that. I wanted to get to that a little bit later, but if anyone else wants to talk about their experience watching the other films, I'd love to hear from you. Veronica?
Well, I wasn't thinking or wasn't looking for similarities in those different films. I think I saw it a bit in the colors as well. Like I don't know, we have all like this special color palette as well, the live action films, and ours obvious in the animation. Yeah, that's what I thought, like there's something in common. Yeah, and I agree with Lynn as well. And I enjoyed them all as well. It was really, really nice. Thank you.
Yeah, for me as well. Actually, I was like listening a lot to the sound as well. So in Spotted Yellow, I was always wondering like, what's that sound that's always coming? And then in the end, you get it. Oh, it's a giraffe. And I really liked that because it was like always like telling me something. Like I was wondering like what it is, and it's like really powerful to me. And yeah, I don't know what else to add. Like I think Lynn said really nicely how like the themes like appear in all the films a bit. Yeah, it was really nice to watch them.
I think definitely the music and the sound, and I totally agree, Veronica, as well about the color palette. And that was something else that I wanted to discuss, because I think that everyone had a really controlled color palette in their films, and I found it really visually striking. So I wanted to just hear a little bit more about the significance of color in your films. And interestingly enough, Aline and Megamal, you know, your color is so significant that characters change colors upon you know, consuming, and I thought that was really cool. So maybe you want to start us off.
Yeah, like the idea of the color changing was actually like that, to have that how is it called, like you are what you consume, like to have a symbol for that. So every time if a character takes a product, like it often also changes the color to what it takes, and kind of want to symbol that, so that when you consume Gucci, you are Gucci. And so, and there's these two worlds where like one is really bright and colorful, and there's a lot of stuff happening, and then in contrast I wanted to have that second world where it is really calm and dark, and when the figures come into that world they lose the color completely, so that they are free from those products and consumerism.
And again, it feels like you're kind of weaving in that theme of nature, where, you know, when characters are in their natural element, they're free of the sort of artificial color. And then when they go into the artificial environment, they're sort of covered in this, you know, in all of these different colors. So I thought that was also an interesting, really interesting way of making a statement.
Yeah, like that part of nature I also kind of wanted to have in movement. So in the parallel world, the movement is very organic, natural, when in the escalator world, the movement is really straight and technical. And also, of course, like I try to contrast the worlds like in all the different layers.
Manuela, Joel, and Veronica, do you guys want to talk a little bit about the color palette in your film, and then maybe also start giving us some idea of like the visual style that you were inspired by, maybe the animation style?
So the visual style will probably be Veronica's topic. She's our designer.
I did want to ask you guys as well, like how you work together as a triplet of directors, which I think is really incredible and really special and not something that we see a lot. So I'd also love to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, Manuela and Joel can answer you that later. I'll take the color. Like, first of all, I love to work with color. So that's in a lot of my works, you see like colors. I really love to use them and like to mix them and put them together. And in this film, like often you go like Aline did a bit, like you have for this world you have like this color palette, and for the other another one, like that they have like a different. And because I wanted to tell in our film that we all come from the same, so I used all the same colors in the both worlds, like in the women world and in the man world, and then as well in the children. Yeah, and I tried to like not make it too obvious. So like it was kind of hard because there was quite a lot of color to work with, and then to make like differences, like it doesn't look like all the same, but still comes together. Does that make sense? Yeah.
It does.
Yeah, that's actually it.
Yeah.
Manuela and Joel, do you want to talk a little bit about your roles as directors? The three of you?
So the three of us were all directors, and mostly we, until now we've worked that Veronica mostly comes up with a really cool, funny idea. Like she's our ideas generator. She's really talented in this. And then when we have the initial idea, we start building up on it, and everybody contributes their ideas, and it's about like maybe a feeling that we have for the film, where it should go, and we start building on that and work on the storytelling together. And then us two were also involved in the animation. So, yeah, we did a lot of part of the animation.
Actually, we are not just directors on this movie.
Yes.
We kind of we work on the story itself, storyboarding, layout. We kind of work in the whole process of the movie as well. So we do not just have this role as directors. We also we are also animators, cleaners, designers as well.
Yeah, so we were pretty much involved in the whole process, except sound design. There we didn't work. There was a really talented sound designer who does this.
Do you guys, when you're doing for the two animated films, do you write scripts? Or do you storyboard? Or both?
We kind of do both, but the more important part for us are the storyboards, definitely, because there we already try to define the characters and the environment that the characters are living in, and that has a very big influence of the story as well. So it's kind of a ping pong of scripted of the script and the storyboard.
There's sort of from the first idea, when we maybe know the story beats or when we know the most important plot points, then writing is a good way to find the story beats, maybe to sort of know, okay, we want them to go from there to there. What will we do in the middle? And this part happens a bit in the writing. But then storyboarding is really a lot of the work afterwards. Yes,
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Aline, do you have a script when you work?
Not really. Like in the beginning, I did a lot of writing, but like the whole story process was a bit chaotic because there were so many different elements, and I shifted them around like all the time because I like developed the scenes separately. So it's just like a lot of different scenes in my mind, and always like write them down or sketch them out and then shifting them around until I had like a more or less stable flow. And then I did the storyboard, but then a lot like shifting it a lot again and back and forth. But no real script, but more storyboard.
Yeah. I'd love to hear from Baran and Linh, the 2 live action films, about how you came up with your color palettes. I thought, again, you had such really beautiful controlled color palettes, and also just a little bit more on what some of your visual inspirations or references were for your films.
خب من فکر می‌کنم که تمام جهان اطراف ما پر از رنگه و این رنگ‌ها تاثیر مستقیمی هم روی کاراکترها میذارن. مثلا اگه یکی توی یک فضای خیلی خشنی که همش رنگ‌های دارک وجود داره زندگی می‌کنه، یک تأثیر توی شخصیتش هست.
I think that all around us, all the universe, there are so many colors. And I think that there is a very direct relationship between colors and characters and people. For example, if someone is living in a place that there are mostly dark colors, then it has an effect on his or her personality.
کاراکتر من چون یک در واقع رویایی توی ذهنش بود که اون رویا در مورد زرافه‌ای بود که زرافه زرد رنگه، این ایده رو به من میداد که بیام از این المان زرد به عنوان یک نشانه توی فیلمم استفاده کنم و داستان و روایتم رو از طریق رنگ هم روایت کنم.
For my character, she has a dream, and it's a dream of a giraffe, and giraffe is yellow. So I had this idea to use the yellow element in my film, so that while narrating the story, I also try to narrate the film visually with the color yellow.
و از طرف دیگه تهران، شهری که حالا هم این فیلم داخلش ساخته شده و هم من خودم زندگی میکنم، بیشتر فضاهاش فضای توسی رنگی میتونه باشه و این برای من یک در واقع کالر پالتی میساخت که تضادی بین رویای درونی اون شخصیت و اون شهر مدرن دیده بشه.
On the other hand, the city of the movie is Tehran, where I also live, and you can say that the main color in Tehran is gray. So I try to show this contrast between the character who had the dream of the giraffe and the yellow color, and also the gray color that we see in the city. And I try to emphasize on this contrast as well.
از طرفی رنگ آبی کمرنگی که یه جاهایی احساس کنیم آسمونی که آبیه و یا رنگ سبزی که توی فیلم می‌بینیم، اینا هم همه برای من المان‌هایی بوده از اون طبیعتی که سعی داشتم توی روایتم بهش اشاره کنم.
And also the color of light blue, like what we see in the sky, and also sometimes that we see the green color, which relates to the nature. And I wanted to use all this to talk about this idea of connection with the nature that I had in mind.
Okay, as for my film, this film is quite different from the previous one that I did, because the previous one that I did is always in a controlled environment. It's like a set where I can control every single aspect, but this is like a road trip movie. So there's a lot of interacting with the environment and the location itself that I have to do. So from the beginning, I always know that I want my characters to all dress in black and white. And I want the bus that they drive on will be, and also the tour guide will be in blue and white color theme. And there will be a lot of green and a lot of sky in the film. So that's my first starting point for the film. then I know that the film will have to go from early morning, a twilight, and then ends at nighttime, because sidetrack a little bit, because this journey of spirits is actually something that we believe in East Asia and Southeast Asia, which is twilight is when the time of the spirits, and then the journey go throughout the day, and the spirit will be brought to a river, and the river is supposed to be a muddy river with red flowers on the side, but I don't have red flowers, but so you can see that it's a muddy river. And then after the journey to the river, they will have to pass through a path, and then they will end up at a kind of a temple, like at night, where they will drink this liquid that make them forget about the past life memories. So I have this underground layers of the journey of the spirit that I have to follow, to consider when thinking about the color and also the visual style. In terms of the visual style, the first portion when they are still on the tour, I want it to be as realistic as possible. So it makes the audience also feel like they are together in the car with the characters. But slowly towards the end, it needs to get more and more a little bit surreal in a way. And then it builds up to the ending scenes where they all descend. Yeah, so so that's the idea that I had when I discussed with my DP and also my art director. So but a lot of it is we want to play around a bit. So, and also since it's a road trip, when we did the filming, we really play around and interacting and also reacting with the location itself. So many of the frames or some colors in the film itself is decided last minute when we are on location, and then we just react with it, and then it's happened that way. Yeah.
I'd love to hear a little bit about what some of your influences are, as far as other filmmakers that you really like, or animation styles or animated films that you guys who made the animated films really like. Were there certain filmmakers or films that you had in mind as references for your films, or maybe just for your work in general?
I am quite influenced, like also about art, like when I get asked this question, it's just the typical names kind of pop into my mind, like Picasso and that stuff, but also others like from Expressionism and this kind of art I really, really love and influences my work quite. And like in films, I guess one of my biggest influences is Miyazaki Iwasa. I love his work. I love his expression in his animation, in his line, like how he draws, and yeah, I would say he's quite a big inspiration for me. Yeah, comics, music, theater. Yeah, that's kind of it.
Yes, and also about the animation is also more like a Eastern influence, like more Japanese and maybe also Estonia. That is our like, yeah, that's where we draw the inspiration from. Also to try to set a bit of a contrast to the Western style, the typical known Disney style. And yeah, the Japanese have quite another way to go about animation. And yeah, that's, I find this really interesting, and to explore a bit more how they go about it and what rules they use. And yeah.
Well, I really don't have a specific name, and it sounds a little cheesy, but I would say like a big inspiration is Veronica's work, just on its own. And
yes, that's true.
from an
It's
animation.
not cheesy.
From
I
an
love
animation-
no, don't put the camera on me.
No, and from an animation standpoint, I just try to figure out what animation style fits best for her characters, and that's how we try to develop the style of the movie and of the animation itself. So yeah.
Good answer.
Well, for animation, I can't really tell because yeah, I'm actually not a really good film watcher. I hardly ever watching any films, and so that's just like how I like the animation is just like how I imagine those people like to move. And like for style, like the same, like I get inspired like from a lot of different things. Mostly it's not film, mostly it's like what surrounds me. And for this film especially, I got inspired a lot by those advertisement magazines. I think they're really cool, like to watch. And also a bit overwhelming, and that's like what I wanted to achieve with the film as well. And yeah, of course, like storytelling wise, I really like episodic films, like for example from Rekabuchi, or like she like inspired me a lot, or also Michaela Pavlatova with the film Repete is like one of the films that really triggered me. So like with just like some examples. Yeah, that's all.
بخوام بگم که چه فیلم سازایی، یکی از کسایی که همیشه کارش برام جذاب بوده اوزو میتونم ازش نام ببرم و روبرت برسون، مخصوصا فیلم ناگهان بالتازار برای من فضای جالبی داشت، چون اونم در واقع کاراکتر دختر تنهایی که یه ارتباطی داره با خری که از بچگی پیشش بوده و فیلم جالبی بود برام و فیلم های دیگه هم همینطور دوست دارم. و فیلمساز دیگه‌ای که میتونم بگم شانتال آکرمنه که انقدر کارهای آکرمن برام جالب بوده که من پایان نامه لیسانسم و مثلا روزمرگی در زنان آثار شانتال آکرمن بود.
If I want to name one filmmaker, it can be Yasujiro Ozu. I'm also influenced by Robert Bresson, especially the film Suddenly Balthazar in English. Especially the relationship with the character of the lonely girl and the donkey, which was very interesting for me. And I also like his other films. The other filmmaker, which is very important for me, is Chantal Akerman. I really relate to her work, and I relate in a way that my thesis for BA in university was about how he showed the daily life of women, how Ackerman showed the daily lives of women in her work.
Okay. So about me, I draw a lot of inspiration from mythology and ghost stories. I enjoy reading like horror mangas and comics and everything. So that has always been an underlying in all of my works. In terms of favorite directors, I have quite a few because I watch a lot of films and I like many kinds of films. So I guess for this film, my inspiration would be coming from the directors who make like slice of life films, for example, like Abaki Rostami or Koreda, and also like directors with dry humor, which I'm watching a lot these days, which is Hong Sang-soo and Yorgos Lanthimos. Yeah, so that would be my inspiration for this film.
Nice, excellent. I always love hearing about people's different inspirations. And it's always great when you can see some of their inspiration in their work, which I think we can see here. One of the other things that I really love about this particular group of films is that you all really use humor. Sometimes absurd, sometimes surreal, but you really use humor in your films to tell your stories, and you create a really particular tone. And I think you're really able to successfully create that tone through music, sometimes through sound, especially, you know, the animated films, but really all of you. So I'd love to hear a little bit. I'd love to hear you guys talk a little bit about the tone of your films, and how you how and why you chose to you know, tell your stories in that way.
For me, it was important, like, to have those two different worlds and like two different tones as well. So in this escalator world, I kind of try to put it like to the top with noises, with different colors, with all this different stuff that happens. Like I was always watching a lot, like I just went to the mall and watched people, and kind of tried to include that in this film as well, so that it's really, it gets kind of absurd, like what all happens in like such a short time. And therefore, like in the other world, I try to really keep it down and have this weightlessness and really calm surroundings, so that there's really that difference between and contrast between these two worlds.
You really use the rhythm of the editing to build to a frenzy in the film. And I'd love to know just how much you worked on that beforehand, how much you thought of that beforehand, whether that was a part of your storyboarding process, like whether you really thought about, you know, the rhythm, how much, and, you know, you thought about the rhythm in advance. I'm not familiar at all with animation, so I'm learning from you guys right now.
Actually, I didn't plan it that much in advance. It was more like it came out of that one episode with the dog, which really needed that speed. And actually, I wanted to keep it a bit more episodic, but then it kind of got like disrupted all the time. So I kind of need to go with the editing also to that peak with the dog, when the dog gets sucked in. So I like kind of shifted all the episodes around a lot, and cut them into smaller pieces, and so that I get that peak when a dog gets sucked in, and with the back and forth of the escalator. There was always like a little bit of a problem with that parallel world, with that underground world, because it was so calm. It always like takes you out of that speed, but I kind of like that effect that it gets at the end.
Yeah, I thought it worked really well. Manuela and Joelle?
Concerning humor, I think it's a way for us to approach sexuality, and to find a naive and funny way to show sexuality, and to take up sexual topics. I think that's a great way. And yes, also not to take it, or just in general, try not to take life too serious, like just bring a funny side to difficult topics as well. Like the whole gender thing is really, at the moment, really, what do you say, like really intense discussions going on. And if you break it up with humor a bit, you also get other perspective about it. And
we take the topic serious, I would say, but yes. We don't take ourselves and our characters too serious, and that gives us some some space where we can move in it and try to bring in some humor.
You get more freedom through humor.
I would say
you
so.
You can address more things.
Absolutely. I think that's good advice for life, not to take yourself too seriously ever. Your film also really had a really great rhythm, and it really built in rhythm. And you used sound so effectively. So I was just wondering how much in advance you knew you wanted to use sound, for example, the women in the women's world, and all of the sounds of just like pleasure. And I'm just wondering, like, was that something that you built in post? Was that something that you were aware that you wanted to do early on?
We actually thought about it very, very early on, I guess, in the animatic stage. So that's the step after the storyboarding. And it was always a huge part of the movie, and we knew that right away. And we tried to contrast the two worlds, the world of the women and the world of the men, with the sound, and try to combine them in the end with the rhythm and the music as well.
Yeah,
and
it was great. It was very effective.
And that like the edginess of the men is also in the music, and the soft, and yeah, maybe you could say goddess, like the theme is for the women, and really to have contrasting music styles. And also we were looking a bit for weird styles.
And I guess the hardest thing about it was to combine all of that, since there are so many characters, there's music, there's sound design. We really had to filter everything that's not needed out, yes. Not to overload the image or the sound.
Yeah, so many characters is really a challenge in animation.
I bet it's not something that we think about watching it, because you do it so well, but I can imagine that, that for you, you're having to find the right balance of everything. But I think you struck a really fantastic balance.
Thank you.
Lynn, what about the tone of your film, and how you were able to achieve the humor that you achieve in your film, which sort of starts to veer into, I think you mentioned surrealism. And you also use music. There's song and music that's also quite important in your film as well.
Okay, so I'll talk about the humor first. So for me, the humor in the film comes from two main things. One is the awkwardness when you go on a tour group. I'm not sure if you guys have gone on a tour group before, but I've been to many with families, and it's always this awkwardness that everyone is going on a trip together, but you don't know each other really, and then each one just like doing their own thing, and then it's the enthusiastic tour guide that is like trying to bring everyone together, and it's kind of jarring. It's kind of a very funny and weird experience, but it's quite interesting. And there's also this passive aggressiveness that comes from the middle-aged women, especially one that is in love, as we see in the film, that you want to express how you feel, but you also don't want to express it. It's quite funny. It's quite funny to watch, and for me, it's very amusing. So it's my decision from very early on to do a one shot for one scene. So I don't really do a lot of editing, because I think the humor should come from the situation and should come from the entire environment by itself, and not just by cutting into the character's face. So that's how I try to kind of think of the rhythm for the film. And yes, the sound design and also the songs in the film are folk songs, and it's also come from the fact that the women in the film are in their 50s and like my mother age, and they like those kind of song, like very cheesy but very nice poetic love song. And when they want to say something to you about how they feel, they don't say it, but they use something else, and in this case it's the music. And it's very common in Vietnam in that sense, that like when you go on a tour group or when you go to a gathering with a lot of old people, they would use songs to say what they feel. Yeah, so that's one thing that I brought from reality into the film. And the sound design of the film is also, I try to keep it as close to reality as possible in the beginning, kind of like distract the audience so that they don't think about the spirit thing until the very end, where I reveal what this trip is about. Then we use this kind of like very stylized, very surreal kind of soundscape, which I like a lot because it doesn't sound too cheesy. We spent quite a lot of time trying to figure out what is the right tone for that particular scene at the end, so that it doesn't sound like, you know, like typical kind of like heavenly sound. It needs to sound like something else, like she's going somewhere else, that you know it's not real, but it shouldn't be too cheesy. Yeah, so that's how my thought process was for the sound of the film.
That's great. Well, it was so well done, really well done. And Baran, I'd love to hear from you as well. The tone of your film is so surreal from the very beginning. And I think that one of the ways in which you really successfully achieved that tone is through your casting. So I'd also love to hear about your casting and how you found this woman whose expressions were just really amazing. She was so there and not there at the same time that I just couldn't stop looking at her. It was just a very interesting, unique tone in your film.
خب بازیگر این فیلم شادی کرمودی هستش که یکی از بازیگران جوان و مطرح سینمای ایران هست این روزا و خب خیلی آدم باهوشیه و ما قبل از فیلم خیلی جلسه‌های زیادی داشتیم به همراه نویسنده فیلم و بازیگر که در مورد کاراکتر حرف می‌زدیم و در مورد فضایی که این قراره در اون لوکیشن و در اون فضا قرار بگیره.
The actress of the film is called Shadi Karamurdi. She is one of the most well-known young actresses in Iran, in Iranian cinema scene today. She is very smart, and before making the movie, we had many sessions together with the actress Shadi and also the scriptwriter of the film. And we talked about a lot about the character, about the location she is going to be in, and also about the atmosphere of the film.
ولی ما هیچ صحنه‌ای رو از قبل تمرین نکردیم و سعی کردیم که حس‌های کاراکتر رو توی روزهای خود فیلمبرداری بهش برسیم و فضای اصلی که براش ساخته میشه، گریمش، لوکیشن، فضایی که برای طراحی صحنه‌مون داریم و طراحی لباس، اون توی تمام این فضا به اون کاراکتر برسه.
But we didn't practice of these the scenes of the movie beforehand. We let them to be for the first time to experience everything on the scene, especially for the actor and also the character, to feel everything for the first time on the scene, the makeup, the location, the clothes, and everything would be in a way to help her and also the character to reach to certain unique or unique feelings at that exact moment when we were shooting.
و فکر می‌کنم که وقتی که یعنی تلاش من برای این بوده که بتونم به این لحن برسم، احساس می‌کنم که این فقط با یکی از المان‌های فیلم نمیشه. ما یه روند خیلی خلاقانه گروهی در واقع داشتیم از همون ابتدا که طرح توی ذهن من بود و بعد با نویسنده فیلم اونو بست دادیم.
I think I tried to reach to this tone by group, let's say creative group work. I can say that just one element helped me to reach to this tone. It was a group work. Since the moment that I had the idea, then I discussed it with the writer of the movie. It is just like a very creative group product.
ما اجازه دادیم که یعنی من اجازه دادم که فضای فیلم مثل یه دفتر نقاشی خالی باشه و شروع کنیم همه چیز رو توی اون ترسیم کردن. حتی خیلی جاها به خاطر لوکیشن فیلمنامه رو تغییر دادیم و المان‌های دیگه، تمام عوامل به صورت خلاقانه همراهی داشتن و همه آزادانه در راستای اون روایتی که هم از لحاظ فیلمنامه جلو میره و هم از لحاظ تصویر، خطوط و رنگ‌ها فیلم رو پیش بردن و بعد از تولید تدوین و صداگذاری و جلوه‌های ویژه، همه اینا تأثیراتی که دست به دست هم میدن تا بتونی به اون فضایی که در ذهنت شکل گرفته برسی.
I can say that I let that we have a open space. I thought that the movie is like an open painting notebook, that we have the time and freedom to draw anything on it. So sometimes because of the location, we needed to change the script. We go with it, and everyone helped in this creative process. Everyone were free to help us to realize these ideas with the colors, with the visual aspect of the movie. And after that, after shooting, with editing, with sound designing and visual effects, they all helped us to reach this picture, this mental picture that I have and this tone.
Great. Well, I know we're ending the we're nearing the end of our time together, so I just want to say that it was such a huge pleasure to get to watch all of your films and to get to talk to you and hear more about what inspired you and what your process was like. Well, huge congratulations to you all once again. It was such a pleasure to watch your films and to get to spend some time with you, learning more about you as filmmakers and about your process. Yeah, thank you so much for being here. I can't wait to see what you do next.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.